My brother, welcome to the Real Man Revolution, a movement for high-achieving, successful men who refuse to settle for anything less than the have-it-all marriage and the have-it-all life that results from having that marriage. I'm Bob Gerace, and I help professional men like you who have built a dynamite career and now suffer the consequences of what it took to build it inside of a marriage that is not working, leading to a life of brother and sister misery, or worse, a devastating divorce. And I've helped thousands of men to turn around that failing marriage, turn it around without sacrificing anything inside of their career by helping them to learn how to rebuild trust, how to rebuild connection, love, safety, and comfort inside their marriage for both partners. And so, brother, if you value this free content, then by subscribing to this channel and liking my videos, you can help me to spread the word to other men who, like us, refuse to settle for anything less than happiness in the boardroom or the operating room or the flight deck or wherever you make your money, and every room of the house as well, brother. All right, brothers, let's get into it. And today's presentation is surviving the gap, avoiding the gap trap. In other words, otherwise known as what fuels your business kills your marriage. And this is the quandary for high-achieving, successful professional men. That fire in your belly, that always wanting more, that always reaching higher. And brother, I'm going to tell you that if you do not get that under control and learn how to direct it in productive ways only, then it's going to absolutely kill your marriage. So let's get right into it. And so the first rule of business is that it's never good enough. Like, you can never rest on your laurels. The competition is always out there. The opportunities are always out there. The balance sheet always needs to be expanded. The income statements, revenue, and net profit always need to be expanded. The expenses always need to be decreased. The sales need to increase. The service quality needs to increase. The number of people served needs to increase. And so you can never be satisfied. And with that attitude, what ends up happening is the high-achieving, successful business professional is always chasing that next better thing, the bigger, better deal. And that is what has fueled and enabled and empowered and put a catalyst and afterburners on your success as a high-achieving man. So in order to make that happen, we go to war with ourselves to eviscerate the weaknesses that are in our business. If there are weaknesses in mission, they are eviscerated. In purpose, eviscerated. Culture, eviscerated. We don't want any staff weaknesses. We don't want any knowledge of what our clients want, what their expectations and what their experience is like, and the experience they desire, and the gap between those two things. We don't like having problems in marketing and sales and execution and profitability. And because of that, we go to war with ourselves, with our business every single day. And so Tiger Woods summed this up completely. He said, no matter how good you can get, you can always get better. And that's the exciting part. And I looked for the quote, I couldn't find it, but I've always heard that Tiger was once asked after winning the Masters, what are you going to do to celebrate? Are you going to Disney? And Tiger's answer was, no, I didn't like the way I was coming off the tee on the back nine, so I'm going to go hit 1,000 more balls. That is the fire. That is the passion. And that is what leads to our success. That attitude right there. And so the high-achieving, successful men, we live in the gap. And that's also known as today isn't good enough. I'm chasing tomorrow, the bigger, better deal tomorrow. And sometimes we look at this and it's like there's this island out there in the middle of the ocean, and that island is paradise. And right now we're in this pit, we're in this pain. We don't like where we are today, no matter how great and wonderful and awesome today is. You can be independently wealthy and still not like where you are because you're looking at that island and you want more, you want better. Your car isn't good enough, you want an airplane. Your airplane isn't good enough, you want a jet. Your jet isn't good enough, you want a G4 or a G5. It just keeps going and going. And so here's the fact too. There is a gap in your marriage. And it doesn't matter how good or how bad that gap is, or how good or how bad your marriage is. There is a gap between what you envision as marriage perfection and what you experience as marriage reality. And so this gap is something that we also face. And because it's coded into our DNA that we cannot stand the gap, that we are always trying to close the gap. And as we knock down that little domino, it leads to a bigger one, and a bigger one. The dreams keep getting bigger. Our expectations out of our marriage keep getting bigger. This is what we talk about in expanding our kingdom. And the thing is our queen wants that too. Our queen wants for her vision to be expanded. She has a gap that she feels in the marriage as well. And there's a gap in between your financial success and your financial goals. There's a gap in every area of your life. And there's always gaps in the fundamental four. There's always gaps in the relationships you have in their ideal, in the finances you have in your ideal, in the faith you have in its ideal, in the fitness and the physical security that you have in its ideal. And so you've got to expand the gaps. You're always expanding the gaps. And the high-achieving, successful husbands live in the gap as well. Because as a high-achieving, successful husband, I am always expanding my kingdom. But here's the pitfall. It's all too easy to end up in what I call the gap trap. The gap trap is simply this. It's losing your joy while in the gap. It's like getting so focused on the outcome of these gaps, so focused on how far away that island is at any given time, so focused on the obstacles and the sharks and the rays and the eels that are between you and that island, that you lose your joy because there's a gap in your professional success, a gap in your marriage, and a gap in everything. And if you let yourself get pulled into the gap trap, you are going to become unhappy. And all of this leads to a constant state of not being present, of this constant underlying river of anger and rage and frustration and anxiety with all kinds of negative vibe energy that you're giving off 24/7 by 365. Now, first off, dude, you are not very fun to be around when you're in that state because she's not going to be happy. Those vibes definitely come out and affect your wife. She does not like this guy. The guy she met was excited about the gap. The guy she met was anxious to run into the gap, to get into those waters with those sharks and the eels and the rays and the barracudas, and to do battle in the marketplace and to do battle with himself and to build a big business and to build a big marriage and to build a big life and to build a big family. But then you get into this gap trap, and it gets frustrating when employees are stealing from you and the government wants to take your profit as far as taxes, and your vendors want to increase your charges, and your employees want more money for doing less, and your customers want more because your competitors are willing to undercut you. And these gaps, they become harder and harder to navigate the further and further you climb, the higher you want to go, the higher you want to achieve. And if you allow yourself to lose your joy in that space, then you become somebody who she doesn't want to sit on the couch with. But here's what you don't know, brother. She's not only unhappy because you're just not fun to be around. She's unhappy because she takes it personally. She sees the way you live your life. She understands that you're trapped in the gap, and she believes that she is one of your gaps. And it is only a matter of time before you move on to a bigger, better deal in the form of a wife. She knows that at some point you're going to get so frustrated that she's not bringing what you need to the marriage because she's unable to bring it because she cannot be happy in a space where you're so miserable. And now she's miserable and she knows she's got nothing to contribute into the marriage. And it's only a matter of time before your younger, more beautiful secretary turns your head. And this is what goes through her head. Am I going to end up alone? Am I going to end up raising these children by myself? What is wrong with me? Why am I not good enough for him? Why is he always looking for that bigger, better deal? And how long is it until he finds it? And I don't want to get blindsided by that. I don't want to get blindsided by that, so I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start dressing a little better, looking a little prettier. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to start hanging out with my friends at happy hour or whatever, because I've got to move on with my life before I get left and blindsided in the dust. And then men call me and they're like, Bob, she blindsided me. She's done. And I'm like, dude, the writing was on the wall for a long time. But brother, I'm wanting you to get this training. I'm wanting you to avoid this. I'm wanting you to avoid this gap trap because so many times this particular problem in marriage for the high-achieving, successful, professional man can be avoided. Because if she's in a space where she sees that you're never happy with the status quo, and her deepest, most secret thoughts are that she's going to get left and end up alone. And that, here's the paradox. The very thing that attracted her is killing your marriage. And this is not lost on her either. She's like, when I met him, I loved that about him. I loved his ambition. I loved his drive. I loved his energy. I loved how hard he worked. I loved how many hours he worked. I loved that he was building this for us and our family. But then what she comes to understand is that when you're stuck in this gap trap and it's never good enough, you can never rest on your laurels. You can never say, I am happy with what I have in the present moment. Then she, like any human, is going to lump herself into that, and she's going to say, then how can he possibly still be happy with me? Getting older, nagging him with my baggage and my post-childbirth body. How? With this man who is so ambitious, this man who is always looking for the bigger, better deal. How am I ever going to survive this? Brothers, if you get nothing else, you got to understand this is what's going on in her head. And so the answer to all of this is to find joy and bliss in the gap. And what that means, in other words, is I'm grateful and happy for and with what is. Now, brother, we can talk for hours about this, and we don't have time on this particular training. But what I'm going to say is there's a place for that in your business where your business can still expand. There's a place for that where you can be happy in the gap. And so to be happy in the gap is actually better for your business because it makes you a more joyful business partner. It is more attractive to your employees. It is more attractive to your customers, to your vendors, to the taxman, to the bankers, to the shareholders. Finding joy in the gap is absolutely something that needs to happen for you to experience maximum business success. But what I'm going to tell you is it's 1,000 times more important inside your marriage. It's 1,000 times more important. Why? Because your wife is taking your dissatisfaction personally. And it doesn't matter if you tell her it's not her. It doesn't matter what you say. It's not what you say. It's how you say it, which means how you show up. And if you're showing up not joyful in the gap, then it doesn't matter how much you tell her you love her and you're never going to leave her. She's not going to believe it. And she's going to start all of those bad, destructive, negative habits and patterns and behaviors. So get happy, find joy and bliss in the gap. But here's the paradox. So many guys are like, but dude, how can we continue to expand professionally if I'm happy with where I am? How can I expand my marriage if I'm happy with where I am? How can I expand my finances and my faith and my physical security and my family relationships if I'm happy where I am? How can I expand as a man if I'm happy where I am? It's like if I'm happy in this moment with all that I have and all that I've done, how will I not lose my edge, my hunger, my go-getter warrior mentality? And so, dude, let me ask you a question. Why can you not have it all? Why can you not have happiness in all the gaps and contentment in all the gaps and at the same time have unstoppable expansion? And the answer is you can. But here's the secret. You've got to get your marriage out of the gap first. And that's what I call the have-it-all marriage. Now look, you're always going to have a gap in your marriage. Just like Tiger Woods said, it doesn't matter how good it gets. It can always get better. But you've got to get out of the pain of being in the gap in order to build a marriage that is what I call the have-it-all marriage. It's a paradox. It's a quandary. It's like, what comes first? Do I go out? Do I have the marriage I want? And then the pain of not having the marriage I want stops? Or do I get out of the pain of not having the marriage I want first, and then I can build and maintain the marriage that I want? And brothers, I'm here to tell you that it is the latter. Like, you cannot achieve the have-it-all marriage, which enables the have-it-all life, and let's digress here for a moment. This woman who's on his shoulder, standing behind her man, right? What happens when she's in the gap? What happens when she is unsafe and she is unloved and she is thinking these thoughts of fear and doubt and scarcity and insecurity, and it comes time for him to need to work late? What happens when he needs to go out of town for a convention, for an overnight sales call, for a week-long retreat? she's going to drag him down. She's going to vomit scarcity on him. She's going to give him problems. She's going to make him wish he never left. He's going to have to call her 17,000 times per day to maintain her insecurity. It's going to negatively impact and affect his ability to go out and dominate the marketplace. But let's turn this around and let's put that happy look back on her face. And what happens when he needs to be out overnight or for a week, or he needs to take out a female client and entertain her or whatever? When he's got that rock solid security and the rock solid love, and she doesn't feel like she's one of his gaps, she's going to encourage him to go build it bigger because she knows that he's building it bigger for her as much as for him. Brothers, I cannot emphasize this enough. That's why I call it the have-it-all marriage, because you cannot have it all in business if you do not have that strong foundation in marriage. She needs to know with rock-solid certainty that there is rock-solid trusting connection and that she herself is not just another gap in your life in order to empower you to go out and slay the buffalo, to slay the dragons, and to win and dominate in the marketplace, because she wants to know that when you come home and those spoils are laid at her feet, they are for her and not for your younger, more attractive secretary. Only then can she be an advocate who empowers you to build it all, have it all, and keep it all, instead of an adversary who is holding you back. So in a very real sense, because you have not given her that level of safety and security, she actually is a gap in your life, and she knows it. And let that sink in. I'm going to ask you to actually let that sink in, because you have failed at giving her that level of safety, security, trust, and connection. You know she's not happy. You know she's holding you back, and she becomes an actual gap in your ability to go out and get and keep everything you want. And let's stop pretending we're real in the real man revolution. We get real. We face these things. And one of the things you got to face is that right now she is a gap, and she knows it, and you know it, and you both know it. So let's stop lying about it and let's change it. And once again, brother, the problem is not her. It is you. Do your job. Love her the way she needs to be loved, to have the trust and security to know that she is not one of your gaps. And then go change the world, brother. And what you're going to find is what you've known all along, that you can be happy in all the gaps, even between the great marriage you have and its expanded greatness, as long as you have the love and respect of your wife and the love and respect of your wife who is your love of your life. Brother, this is it. You've got to find that happiness inside. You've got to slay that demon, that dragon. You've got to slay those unhappy feelings, the angst, the nervousness, the anxiety, the tension, the anger, the resentment, the frustration, the impatience, the scarcity mindset, the fear, the doubt, and the insecurity that is inside you. And you've got to stop pretending that that is what is driving your success, because, brother, it is not. It is not. I'm a living example, having been through this over 30 years. And I'm going to tell you, for a long time, I thought all of that negative energy was the fuel and the power that enabled me to build big businesses that matter. But what I'm going to tell you is that stuff will allow you to build big businesses, and then they're going to come crashing back down again. Because you have the energy to build it, but you are not the man who can keep it. Your marriage falls apart. Your relationship with your kids fall apart. In that, you stop focusing on business as you're trying to fix it, and then your business starts to fall apart. And so the way to have it all is to build it all and then keep it all. And when I say that, I'm saying you've got to start with your marriage. You've got to build the have-it-all marriage so that you can use that as the foundation, the springboard, and the catalyst to go out and build and maintain the have-it-all life. Is that making sense? And so, my brothers, this is another heartfelt chapter from a guy who has been there and done that and lived that and made the mistakes and has the battle scars to prove it. And this has been another chapter from the book of Bob. And gentlemen, as always, if this material has resonated with you and you are a high-achieving, successful professional man who needs help with his marriage, then head on over to realmanrevolution.com and watch my free training to get started. And if you've heard enough and you're ready to get on the phone with a coach who will take an hour with you at no charge to help you plot out the strategy for your step-by-step system and solution to achieve the Have-It-All marriage for the Have-It-All life, then head on over to haveitallmarriage.com/apply. haveitallmarriage.com/apply. And I look forward to helping you achieve it all.